Hey there, beautiful soul. Welcome to Spiritual Peacock. I'm Warren, spiritual guide. I'm so grateful to be able to share with you today, and I send you unconditional love. I've been actively on my spiritual journey for many years now. I've dived into a lot of spiritual content. I've done a lot of introspection. I've adopted a lot of practices into my daily life for many years. You are on a path of awakening. You're awakening to the true nature, to your true nature, to your true essence. And part of that awakening is that you go through a process of detachment, detaching from your subjective and transient parts of your egoic self, the illusionary parts of your egoic self. And a part of this journey, is in, and it's certainly I've contemplated it many times. Are you in control of your experience? Are you the doer of your experience? And I asked this question through a lot of introspection, inner introspection on my part. I looked at it at multiple ways, at different stages of my journey. And I remember many, many years ago that I was sitting in a restaurant, and at the time in my life, there were events taking place in major areas of my life. And these events had come about not by my doing, but were brought to me by existence itself. And never mind the characters within this. But these events were life-changing, right? And a lot of it came unexpectedly, and a lot of it had, or most of it had a huge impact on my experience. And I remember sitting there trying to manage the outcomes, trying to manage the finer details of it. And I sat there in panic and fear and grasping, trying to manipulate the situation to have a positive outcome for me. These events were almost, at the time, I felt like they were life-shattering, right? I didn't understand why this was happening to me. I certainly didn't take any action in order for these things to come into my existence, or for the events to occur. But I remember sitting there in full-blown panic, like, what am I going to do? And you get taught that you need to figure this out, right? You need to figure it out. And I was sitting in the restaurant in a meal, and I've been holding on to this fear, this restrictive energy for some time, and a light switch went off. A light switch went off, and in a moment I realized that the outcomes to the areas that were transpiring on my path at that time, the outcomes were predestined, and I didn't have any influence over it. And the things that were occurring were way above my head, my ability to understand, my knowledge at that time. And so in that moment, I released attachment to fear, a tremendous amount of fear. And I accepted whatever outcome is transpiring, wherever this train is going. I'm just a passenger. I'm just a passenger on this train. And the cards will fall where they fall. And there was such and I remember it vividly, there's such a release of energy, a release of tension, a release of this fear-based energy that just came off of me. And I felt a sense of calm, a sense of peace. I still didn't understand why. It was only later that I understand that there was part of my awakening process, that it was necessary. These parts of my life didn't serve me, even though I tried to cling on to them so desperately. It just wasn't part of my destiny. So I asked the question, and I still have events even now that occur in my life, and I'm like, why is this happening, right? And sometimes we don't need to know the why. We just need to have trust and faith and let go that everything will work out for your highest good. So I contemplated, and I started to look at it a little deeper, right? And you have a person that's driving in their car on a random Tuesday, and they get hit into a car accident. Well, did they ask for that, right? So how much choice do we actually have in our life? Or somebody gets let go at their company because they did a restructure and they weren't expecting it, or somebody picks up an illness. Were they expecting it? Did they ask for it? You start to realize when you look deep into it that the things that transpire in your life are transpiring outside of your control. And we get taught that the more we manifest, the more we do within our experience, the more that we plan and strategize, and the more determined we are, we can bring a particular outcome. So I started to look at different industries, looking at the sports industry and music and authors and CEOs. And you look at how many first-time or first-year companies that start are successful. There's such a huge failure rate. And if you look at all the industries, there's only 1% that make it to that top-tier level. Right. And so what about all the millions of other people that aspire to become a professional sportsman, that have dedicated a lot of time and effort into becoming a sportsman? What happened to them? Why didn't they become professional? What did they do differently? Was that due to their inability to manifest that into existence, or was it just not their destiny? Right. There is a saying that no good deed goes unpunished. You can have somebody that goes around in their life and they're a good person, and however, bad shit just happens to them, and it's not their fault. You see, I took it personally when things weren't going according to plan, when life threw a curveball. I took it personally. It was a reflection on my own inner being, or my own inability to navigate my life the way I guess I was supposed to, right? Am I not smart enough? Did I do something wrong? Hindsight comes in. If I could have done that differently, if I would have done that differently. But that's not the case, right? And so we hold on to the attachment that we're less than, and that's not true either. You could do everything right and still not receive the outcome that you were looking for. It's outside of your control. You look at Ramana Maharshi, right? And if you don't know him, I recommend him highly. He's a Hindu teacher, an enlightened being. And he said, no matter how hard you try run from destiny, if it's meant to be, it'll be. No matter how hard you try run towards destiny, if it's not meant to be, it won't be. You certainly look at Jesus's life, right? Jesus knew the outcome of his path. He knew that he would get crucified on a cross, and he knew that he would rise 3 days later. He had tapped into a part of his consciousness, part of the awareness that allowed him to see his destined path, and therefore he didn't put up much resistance to it. You see, at the basic level, at a human level, if you go deep enough, and it's certainly depending on where you are and your understanding on your journey, you'll quickly come to the conclusion that there's a sophisticated game being played here, and that sophisticated game gives us the illusion of choice. But when you look a little deeper, when you go deeper, not surface level, you realize that you actually don't have a lot of choice, right? When you go to a soul level, right? A soul level, and again, it depends where your level of consciousness is. But if a lot of spiritual teachers at that level certainly talk about there being soul contracts in place, and all the characters in your play of life have been have chosen to help you through this lifetime and provide what you need in order to learn your lessons, and the blueprint to your experience has already been predefined. And so therefore, holding on and grasping and trying to control and manipulate your situation is pointless, right? They also talk about co-creating, right? And who exactly are you co-creating with? Because if you look deeply at a human level, the egoic self is just a psychological construct, a container of our thoughts, perceptions, identities, etc. If you go to the ultimate level, which is you, right, which is oneness, which is what you're awakening to, well, at that level, then you have one energy, one consciousness, one awareness that's infinite in nature, that has divided itself into endless, infinite amount of possibilities, and it is having an experience to understand itself, having a finite experience to understand itself. And it's me creating this video, and it's me looking back at it. It's I am you and you are me, and we are one, right? At that level, then it's this life force that is driving the ship, or driving the boat, right? Or driving the bus, should I say. And we have little control, and it's what this life force wants to experience. It wants to experience this play of life with itself. And so you don't need to do anything. Life will unfold the way it needs to unfold. You know, if you look at nature unfolds the way nature needs to unfold. A bird doesn't need to go to school in order to learn how to be a bird, right? And we're revolving around a central sun with 8 planets, which has 200 moons in our Milky Way, and we're going at a ridiculous speed through space, and somehow it works. So, you know, what makes you think that this force isn't driving your life? And what makes you think that this force isn't you, this awareness? So I get the question often when I have this conversation with somebody, because the egoic mind's going to tell you, oh, no, you're responsible, you know, so do more, be more, be better, right? And so I get the question, well, if that's the case, then should I not do anything? I shouldn't do anything. If I'm not in control here, I shouldn't do anything. Well, this life force, this awareness of yours wants to experience. And all the things that you're experiencing, you're meant to experience. You are exactly where you need to be at any moment. You are. It wants to experience. And it's come here to experience itself. This life force has come here to experience itself. So you can't sit around. Try sit around and do nothing. It's impossible. You'll get up at some point and you'll do something. Even apathy is doing something. So you go to a place of just being in your experience, just allowing in your experience, not trying to control and panic and fear, and because you realize that those are pointless, you know. And no matter what you're doing at this moment, it's okay. It's all okay. And you just got to be kind to yourself, right? Be a little bit patient with yourself. It'll all work out the way it needs to work out. Because again, are you the one driving this bus? Are you in control of the things that are transpiring in your life? And this is part of the process of returning to self, is letting go of all the illusionary attachments. And you realize that when life brings you and puts you in situations that bring about a bunch of fear, like what happens if your very survival is being shaken to its core, that when you let go and you jump into the abyss, that you were always cradled along the way. And the only way for you to awaken sometimes is to be put into a situation that is through pain. Pain is a good teacher. Pain is a very good teacher. This topic we can discuss in many ways, but that's what I wanted to share with you today. And if you have any comments, please leave the comments below in the comment section. Give me your thoughts, like and share the video. And I wish you, and I send you unconditional love. I am you and you are me, and we are one. Thank you for listening.